Imagine a world where your relationship with money is as healthy as a well-balanced diet. That's the goal of financial therapy, a groundbreaking field that marries financial planning with emotional intelligence. It's not just about numbers. It's about understanding the emotional triggers that lead to overspending or financial neglect. Whether you've experienced financial trauma, abuse, or simply can't stick to a budget, financial therapy offers a holistic approach to healing your money wounds. So how does it work? Picture a safe place where you can explore your financial fears and aspirations, guided by experts trained in both finance and psychology. They help you identify the emotional roadblocks on your path to financial well-being and equip you with strategies to navigate around them. The result? A healthier, more empowered relationship with your finances and ultimately, a more fulfilling life. So I think that this question or this segment is really for Sonya, who probably did not get home yet still. So we're going to have to wing it. Judith, maybe you can share some strategies. Like, what strategies can you offer for emotional well-being that contributes to financial health?
Well, what I find with my clients and the programs that I've led, what's really interesting is that people doing the kinds of things we're talking about that take on more of their own emotional intelligence, developing their emotional facility, really looking at how to be more satisfied in the moment. What happens is that they end up making more money. They end up saving more money. They end up much more prosperous. They end up getting much more promotions. If they're in sales or entrepreneurs, they're selling more. And they're not focusing on that. They're focusing on being the best person they can be in that moment. And our stats are really crazy when we start to look at it. It's like how much advancement happens for people as they're working on themselves in this way. So what happens, and just around really looking at that emotional journey and really looking at building that sense of self and really learning the skills to do that does play out in your whole financial picture. And also what I've seen is so many people have done so much better in their lives. Their leadership expands, then they start to become more philanthropic. They start to give more. It's a beautiful, beautiful cycle. And part of the relationship around money is to really understand what money means for people. Because for so many of us, money symbolizes love. It symbolizes security. If someone buys me something, that must mean they love me, or the more money I have, I'm secure. And that's symbolic, but money doesn't bring us love, nor does it necessarily bring us financial security, but it didn't bring us that individual kind of security that we're really hungry for. And there's so much of our own, one of the things we work with is just our sense of self, that our beliefs about ourselves, because Albert Adler says that we have 4 areas of beliefs that are formed very early for us, even by the time we're 7 or 6 or 7, our beliefs about ourselves, our beliefs about the world, our beliefs about what the world expects from us, and our beliefs about what we expect from the world. And oftentimes we might have a sense of scarcity, or think that there's not enough, or there's not abundance, or people aren't there to support me, or I'm not enough, or there's not enough money, there's not enough time. Those core underlying beliefs form these mistaken beliefs that we have, play out in our financial footprint and how we live our lives. So more we're aware, what we work with is more aware of what those mistaken beliefs are, and working out what it really takes to reprogram these new neural pathways of beliefs about I'm deserving, I'm worthy, I am valuable. Then our life tends to align with that, and we find ourselves in a much better balance. So those are some of the ways that we work with it.
I think that those 4 things can very directly apply to one's money mindset too. It's like, what are the stories from your childhood that shaped how you view money? And was it a scarcity mindset, or was it an abundance mindset? And then what are your beliefs that what can you do with your money, or what should you do with your money? And George, does life planning address some of those relationships to money when you're younger and like trying to achieve emotional and fiscal well-being today?
Yeah, I think that a lot of those beliefs are, they are things that we've been socialized to have. But I think when you really identify, I mean, what all of my work has been about, and all my writing has been about, is what is the nature of freedom? What is the nature of it for ourselves? What is the nature of it for our family, for everyone we meet? And when you focus on what does freedom really mean to you? And I don't mean, people go to financial advisors and they think it means having a gazillion dollars, because that's what financial advisors are supposed to help you with. And they don't trust financial advisors to begin with. So the question has to be asked and explored in a very trustworthy environment. But what does freedom mean? And when you can articulate what it means, then a lot of those beliefs, they're background material, because you're on your path. You keep your eyes on the prize. There's nothing you're gonna do that's gonna violate that. And the other thing I'd just like to share is that from a mindfulness standpoint, one of the most beautiful ways to gain emotional intelligence is when you find yourself using the language that you've been using of trigger. Usually there's a mixture of thoughts and feelings. And what we do in mindfulness is we have a practice that's called letting thoughts go, letting feelings be. The feelings are present in the body, and whereas the thoughts are things that you're grasping in the future and the past. So it's really coming right here to the present moment, to who you are. And that's one of the most beautiful ways, and one of the most efficient ways, I think, to learn emotional intelligence.
As the father of life planning, I want to ask, how do you define freedom? What does freedom mean to you?
Well, it's idiosyncratic to each of us, isn't it? I mean, it's my own path, and I'll tell you a story. I was one of the first people in the world to get COVID. So I got it in just as Dr. Lee was in Wuhan was blowing the whistle. I had actually caught it a few days earlier. And I caught it on a plane going from San Francisco to Maui, and I live in the outback in Maui. So the doctors they didn't even have blood tests. They couldn't even do blood tests, but they could tell I had something. They called it pneumonia, and later on we figured out what it was. So I got a profound fatigue from that. It's 3 years later, and that I still have the fatigue. I have long COVID. So what happened when I realized that that I had this life-threatening kind of thing, and who knows what's going to happen? You just don't know. I went back to my 3 questions that I mentioned, and the passion that I had. I'd been writing poetry and doing photography on a piece of land here that is my home. And with the practice, the whole practice was, what is the nature of the present moment? What is the nature of being in nature? And I thought that work might never get out. So all of my energy that I had, I poured into that work. I've written 5 books in the last 2 years, completed 5 books of poetry and photography. And I'm on my 6th book, which is about freedom, which is what we call the 3 domains of freedom. So to me, freedom, it's each of us has to look at that. And then that's really where our focus, I think, should be. And sometimes it's just in the moment, as Judith was talking about, the momentary decisions that we have. But a lot of it is really understanding where we're headed, where we're going.
It sounds like freedom for you is working harder, not sitting on the beach somewhere doing nothing.
Oh man, I mean, if you read this book, I mean, it's you'd see I'm in nature, and I'm just totally open to nature. That's what the whole book was about. It's about living that nature is our first teacher of mindfulness, because it makes all of our senses come alive, and mindfulness is about being in the moment. So that was what my exploration was. So I've got a lot of relaxation in there too. Yeah.
Judith, a couple of times your ideas have led to the idea of giving back. So I wanted to ask you, in your life and personal, professional, how does that, what role does that have in your life, giving back?
I think it's a big one. I think it's been a big one. And even since I was a little girl, it was something that was important to me to be able to live, grow, learn myself, but also provide that. So it's kind of been something that's been there. But as I and I see it now as I've studied it more and learned more, and from some of the great psychologists and more of the research, that it's really a big part of life. Alfred Adler, the Austrian psychologist who was kind of a contemporary of Freud, he talked about social interest, that we don't become ourselves, we don't live a full life, we don't find our own health unless we have a sense of being connected to others and being a contribution to others. And it's been an interesting thing to look at that. Or Viktor Frankl talked about this self-transcendence, that meaning that we get a full sense of ourselves, but when we can be bigger than ourselves and also concerned about other people, that's where we live the greatest lives. And Abraham Maslow, before he died, it didn't get published, this last part of it, he went beyond self-actualization to self-transcendence, that we don't become our best selves unless we have a connection to the greater world around us, that we're serving, not sacrificing ourselves to others, but becoming our best selves, offering whatever those gifts, services, money, skills, whatever it is we have to offer to the world. That helps us become ourselves. And the more we become ourselves, the more we give to others. And I saw that, I see it repeatedly, and the people that I coach and who go on this journey of personal transformation, the more they become themselves, the more they get connected to the greater world around them, or the small world around them, whatever that is, offer more of themselves. And through that, they get more feedback, they become themselves. So I started to realize that building your best self, living the best life you can, doesn't happen without that contribution, being connected with others. And as you do that, that helps you become more of yourself. They go together. It's not selfish. The more you become more of yourself, the more you give of yourself. And the more you give of yourself, you become more of a self. And that's a pretty beautiful, I think, as I see it, I think, well, that's probably the design. It's probably what we're supposed to be doing, because that's where we function the most optimally.
That's a beautiful message. Let's go to segment 5.